Hello everybody, my name is Luke Marr and this is Hot Mode, and today on Hot Mode we are coming to you with the 2022 SAG Awards Red Carpet Roast and Review. It was pretty good, like, to be completely honest. I wasn't like, oh god, what are you doing? Maybe the 2 years of like absolute distress that COVID caused the red carpets, maybe we're recouping, I'm not sure, I don't know. But without further ado, let's get right into it. First up, we have Alexandria Daddario. Now, she is wearing Atelier Versace. It's drapey, plunging neckline, little high slit gown moment. It has a very sort of 1930s V&A drape. It's very sort of languid and loose. There is sort of elements of little scarf tie train moments coming out from the back as well, and it's all in this shimmery sort of, I want to say like beigey, silvery beige. It just has a sheen to it, you know what I mean? If beige was sheeny. In reality, I don't think it's terrible. I think it fits in with the whole Versace sort of aesthetic of drape, nice clothing, etc., etc. Do I think it's magnificent? Do I think it's exciting? Do I think it's kooky, crazy, wonderful, intellectually stimulating? No. No. I'm not sure if it's really trying to be that though, and that's fine. Of course, like, I want to sit here and be like Madeline V&A, Madame Grey, and like say all of those sort of things. I'm not sure if those were the initial references, but you can definitely see a sort of 1930s feeling to it. It's not cut on the bias or anything like that, or at least not that I can tell, but it definitely does have a sort of 1930s silver screen siren sort of feeling. I'm not going to say old Hollywood glamour, because I think when people say old Hollywood glamour, that is the indication that they in fact do not know what the fuck they're saying. They just say that as like a descriptor, and everybody's like, oh yeah, old Hollywood glamour, Marilyn Monroe. Yeah, I hate that. Sorry, I know I'm like ranting right now, but like, I despise that. If you use that phraseology to describe anything, off the head. In reality, it definitely does have a sort of 1930s feeling to it. Definitely starlets of the 1930s in that languid sort of feeling. I think it looks nice. Could it be a little bit more zhuzhed? Yeah, but it's fine. Next up is Andrew Garfield, and he's wearing Saint Laurent. It is essentially a very beautifully done pinstripe suit. The pinstripes are made up of these light little silver sort of shimmery lines. There's a little black shirt underneath and a little black sort of striped tie. Listen, is it what I think we should go for in terms of Andrew Garfield making fashion super crazy, kooky, fun? No, like, I obviously want more. But do I think that he's actually done a pretty good job in terms of taking the traditional menswear suiting and sort of giving it a little bit of a spin in a very subtle way? Absolutely. I have to give, a lot of credit for this shimmery little pinstripe moment, because not a lot of people would go for that. They wouldn't. They just do a black suit and that's it. This adds a little bit of fun, pizzazz, but it's subtle. It's calm. It's a whisper. I appreciate that. Next up, we have Ariana DeBose. Now, she's wearing Valentino. This, to me, definitely is going for a Marilyn Monroe moment. It's a sort of column gown in a pink silk taffeta. It has some sort of big bow at the back, very reminiscent of Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend, the performance that Marilyn Monroe did. And then at the same time, you have designers like Yves Saint Laurent, Miuccia Prada, etc., referencing it throughout history and time as well. Schiaparelli is a recent sort of one that we can think about. I just don't think that the cut of the dress is necessarily doing anything. I think taffeta is a hard thing to sort of do in like a columnal silhouette. It looks stiff, it looks uncomfortable, it looks like it crinkles and it wrinkles. It's not delivering much of anything, and that's unfortunate, because I think with Valentino you're like, oh, delivery is here, the package is dropped off, thank you, and it has a big beautiful bow on it. Well, the package was dropped off, got a little bit crunched in transportation. It's unfortunate, because it's just not doing anything, right? I mean, there's no like visceral reaction. You're not getting the whole appeal of like, oh, this is meant to be like sexy, seductive, just beautiful, and you're also not getting the whole idea of this is meant to be sort of intellectual, stimulating, it's really meant to make you think about something. There's not that. It's not even like meeting in the middle. It's just a pink strapless column gown with some sort of big circular thing in the back. And I think that with Valentino, maybe we had done a little bit of a color blocking moment. Pier Paolo was very good at that. I think maybe we had done a little bit of a feather or a bedazzlement would have been great. I just think the plain taffeta, and this silhouette is not the way to go. Next up is Catriona Balfe. Now she is wearing Saint Laurent. This is very Anthony Vaccarello for Saint Laurent, very 1980s inspired. You have a low plunging neckline, you have a 1940s sort of shoulder. It's very sharp, it's very seductive. I guess it's not really 1980s, but like it is kind of, but like Yves Saint Laurent was sort of referencing the 1940s and the 1970s, but I think we just associate these sort of like harsh shoulders with the 80s, so really is technically probably a reference to the 1970s and Yves Saint Laurent, but like, you know, he was ahead of his time by like a decade or so. Without further ado, you have a sort of slit up the front, and I'm not sure, I think that's where we're lost here a little bit. I understand the simplicity of the dress. Anthony Vaccarello, very much so a simplistic sort of designer. He's not trying to rock the boat, not trying to do anything crazy. Saint Laurent is very smoking a cigarette, thin model, wearing black, very French. And so yeah, I just think that there's an area between these two sort of triangular cuts that feels a little bit awkward, and we don't really know what to do with it. Maybe we'd had just like a little bit of a slit in the back would have been helpful, you know what I mean? I just think the slit up the front doesn't really do much of anything. I understand it allows her to walk, but we could have just slid it up the back. I understand the sag warts are a little bit more simplistic, but I think with Catriona, I expect like fashion girl, you know what I mean? Like, she's the intellectual stimulation for me. Guys, step it up just a little bit more, please. I know it's there. I do know it is there. I do. Next up, we have Cynthia Erivo. She's wearing Louis Vuitton. Whoever is pushing the LV red carpet VIP looks recently, killing it. This beautiful sort of dress in whatever sort of vinyl-y red synthetic fabric that is gonna crunch, it's gonna scrunch. Nicolas Ghesquière has been on a very 1960s sort of kick recently, you know what I mean? Like Courrèges, Cardin, Paco Rabanne, they've all sort of been very much so in his consciousness recently, and so I feel like that's kind of where this dress is coming from. Very space age, very sort of all of that jazz. But I think the best part about this look has to be this shearling coat that is layered over top. I think the issue that we've kind of gotten into now with red carpets is it's just the dress. Whereas like accessorization, a little bit of fun, a little bit of drama, it doesn't hurt at all to like throw a sort of shruggy shearling over top and ooze a little bit of drama, coquettishness. Give it a little bit of, I think the best part has to be the fact that the inner shearling jacket sort of lapel moment is lined in this little embroidery situation, reminisces to the fall 2022 collection and sort of time and all these different sort of things and elements. And I think it's just a great way to do it. I think Cynthia Erivo is brilliant. She knows how to play it up. She knows how to make it sort of, People, do more of this. Look at Louis Vuitton. Say, oh, wow. Next up, we have Demi Singleton, and she is wearing Celine. Now, this is a custom look because try to find this on the runway at Celine. You will not. Does not exist. Pretty much, it's high-low skirt, full of embroidery, full of embellishment. There was a point where it was believed Celine under Hedi Slimane was going to be doing couture. I'm not sure if that ever materialized, but like I'm sure that this is probably as close to couture as we're going to get from Celine currently. I will say, I think it fits the sort of, she's young, you know what I mean? So this little strap top moment, I think it's fine. I wish we maybe kind of done something a little bit more embellished, embroidered up there, just to bring some continuity between the two, even if it was just sort of little stripes or something to mimic what's going on in the skirt. But I think the skirt is really beautiful. Actually, I think whatever this embroidery style is amazing. I can't really even tell. It looks like little Celine chain links. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from it. And then it falls into a little bit of a train as well on top. There's a little silver heel moment and a little sheer sock. Overall, listen, do I want more? Absolutely, but it's Celine. So like, it's gonna be rather simple. It's gonna be rather just about the details. I do think we should have done something up top, but the skirt in and of itself is really beautiful. I'm intrigued to see what goes on for the rest of the awards season. So Demi Singleton, don't know you, but I should know you because evidently Celine is doing custom looks for you. So next up we have Elle Fanning. She's wearing Gucci. Listen, does she look like a waiter in the 1940s in Berlin? Sure, absolutely. You know what I mean? Marlene Dietrich, eat your heart out. I like this scoop cut on this vest. I think it's fun. I think it's a cool way to sort of play into recreating the vest in a modern sort of iteration, especially for women. The little sheer blouse with little pink bow up top, I think also sort of adds a little bit of a femininity to a usually masculine tailoring sort of piece like a vest. And then the glittery pinstripe pant, I get it, I understand it. I do feel like there's a little bit of a disconnect between the top and the bottom. Maybe had we done a light pink with the pinstripes or something like that, could have been a little bit more tying everything all together. I understand where we're going. I just wish that we maybe had gone that one step further. Like the pinstripe jacket would have been nice, would have been chic. I don't hate the way that Elle goes. She's always trying something different. It's always a little bit strange, it's always a little bit, I always appreciate. Next up is Greta Lee. She is wearing Marc Jacobs. I believe that this is from the spring 2022 collection. This skirt had a jacket attached to it during the runway. I know we can't see it because there weren't like front-facing images that I could find in that collection. I'm intrigued by the look. It's pretty much a turtleneck bodysuit, but it has very extensive cutouts that show sort of side boob, which I appreciate. You know what I mean? Feel like if the bodysuit game got into showing side boob and then turned into like a swimsuit moment, they'd be very hot for summer at least, or spring, winter or fall, or whatever. As for the skirt, we can obviously see underneath that the skirt is lined with a quilting, which is something that Marc Jacobs in recent sort of collections has really been pushing. And the pattern, I'm not super sure where it's coming from. It has like vintage, I would say mid-century modern sort of feeling to it. I'm just throwing that word in there because I'm really not sure where it's deriving from. I do appreciate that Greta is like going somewhere. She's trying something different. She's trying something a little bit kooky, a little bit crazy. I do think there are better looks from that collection for a red carpet moment. In my opinion, I think this is more of like a not SAG award look. I would say this is more of a luncheon look. I would say this is more of like a press junket look. I just think that there are some like moments from that collection, but this also gives me hope that we'll see some more Marc Jacobs moments on the red carpet throughout this award season. So I'm hopeful. I'm very hopeful. I appreciate that we went there. I just don't know if we got there. Next up is Hailee Steinfeld. She's wearing Miu Miu. Miu Miu can currently do no wrong. Do you agree? Because I agree. I agree. You agree. We all agree. Listen, very rarely am I like, oh my God, Hailee Steinfeld. She's done something correct. But like, she's done something correct. I think that this plunging neckline is really incredulous. I think it's beautiful. I think it's stunning. And then there's a bra sort of there to, you know, catch the girls. Full of embellishments that sort of, you know, dégradé as they go down. They're almost like little floral sort of moments, little stars. Adds a subtlety to it. It definitely plays into Miuccia Prada's constant need to make embellishments modern and chic and young and sophisticated and cool. I think that it's working out here. And Prada has always been the brand for like the working woman who has shit to do. Whereas Miu Miu has always been the brand that Miuccia Prada like sort of wanted to be when she was younger. If you need that context to decipher between the two, I think that this makes sense. Like this is sort of seductive, it's sexy, it's young, it's fun, it's chic, it looks great. I'm into it. Hailee Steinfeld, Miu Miu, good match, here for it. Next up is Helen Mirren. She's wearing Prada. Now, if you just understood the Prada and Miu Miu differentiation, I think this is a great example of that, huh? It's a pink ball gown cut, which honestly, I feel like Miuccia Prada doesn't really do a lot of, you know what I mean? You don't get like debutante ball gown from Miuccia Prada often, so when you do, you're gonna appreciate it. It's in this beautiful light pink, which is stunning. And then the simplicity of it really comes in these floral sort of embroidery moments. It almost looks like blown glass. I know that it isn't glass because like how does one embroider or embellish glass onto a dress? I really don't know. This idea of embroidery, this idea of embellishment that is different, it is strange, it is modern compared to sort of the embellishment and embroidery that Miuccia Prada grew up with, which was very much so based on the haute couture sort of ideals of the 1950s and the 1960s. So here, honestly, I think this is different. I don't really know what this is made of. Maybe it's plastic. I feel like it could be plastic. I want to say I'm intrigued by it. I'm especially intrigued by like the vines that are clear that sort of drip down that shoulder. It looks like a hummingbird, but I know it's not a hummingbird. It's foliage, or maybe it is a hummingbird. I really don't know. But either way, I love it. And then to top it all off, Helen is wearing a little Prada headband, and you're just like, wow, you're that girl, Helen. You know what's going on. I'm very happy about this. I think this makes sense. I think this is gorgeous. I think this is stunning. She knows what she's doing. Emphasis on silhouette and tiny little bits of abstract and intriguing and innovative little embellishments makes the Prada world go round. I'm happy to sit there and wait for it to do another rotation. Next up is Ho Yeon-jung. Now, she is wearing Louis Vuitton. I mean, listen, Squid Game Season 2, maybe this is the look. I'm not sure. This, again, sort of is very Nicolas Ghesquière looking back in time. It's very heavy embroidery. Personally, I feel like it has a very 18th century French court dress sort of feeling. I'm not saying that it looks like a robe à la française, a robe à la anglaise, a robe à la polonaise. I would say it definitely feels similar to the embroidery you would find on the habit à la française, which was the sort of men's suiting that fully embellished on the sleeves, on the cuffs, you know, down the lapels. That's what this reminds me of, but it's done in all black. It also has a simple strap moment going on. It comes down, it sort of creates its own button up, sort of slit, not really a slit at all situation. Kind of feels very 1980s. Again, Nicolas Ghesquière, I do think really appreciates the 80s. I feel like he sort of was coming of age in the 1980s. Again, I'm not trying to like date people by ages, etc., but it definitely does feel like this is something that you would see in the 1980s, a sort of style of clothing and cut with the buttons running up it. So it makes sense. In reality, I don't think it's amazing, but I don't think it's horrible. I think that she is a model. She knows exactly what she's doing. She knows how to sell a garment, so that's always going to help there. And she now, I believe, is a Louis Vuitton ambassador, so I'm excited to see what comes from this relationship, because I think it's only going to go up from here. Next up, we have Jennifer Hudson. She is wearing Vera Wang. Listen, I love a Vera Wang. I just don't know if this is the vibe. Listen, a pale, almost cream pink dress is lovely. I do think the color really, really works well on her. It's beautiful. I also think that these big sort of flower fabric moments going on, normally I'd say hideous, but weirdly enough, they're kind of working. At least the one on the shoulder is. The one on the hip, I'm less in love with, but the shoulder, she's cute. The issue really comes in not at the trumpet skirt, but more so at the draping on the bodice. I'm not understanding why. Unfortunately, I think draping can work 100%, creating texture throughout a dress or the use of draping. It's a thing. It happens. The way that this was draped, these like harsh lines that cut through the body, which I'm sure are meant to try and sort of contour the torso area, but unfortunately they almost look like they were accidentally ironed down like that, and Vera Wang's team couldn't figure out, oh, how do we get new fabric to go on top here? That's the issue. That's the problem. Like, even the cut that goes right at the pelvic area, it looks like it was unintentionally creased like that. Why does it look like it's an indent and a crease that we didn't want? That's my issue with this dress. I also think the way that these sort of draped creases go on, it doesn't really play into the color and the sort of lightness of the rest of the dress. Like, these flowers are big and beautiful. They're almost diaphanous. You know, that pink is so delicate and light, and then you have these sort of harsh creases that cut through the torso, and that's really not the part that I'm understanding here. Why are these lines here? They don't actually contour the body too well. I think the dress in and of itself is cut well enough that you can get a sort of hourglass shape going on, but the way that these lines section off different areas just feels very unintentional, when I'm guessing that they probably were intentional. And that's my issue. I think otherwise, it's a really nice, sort of pretty, light, fairy princess dress. The texture is just very confusing and odd and seems so out of place. So I'm hoping that with Jennifer Hudson, as the award season goes on, we'll see more, not that. Please. Next up is Jessica Chastain. She's wearing Dior. It's a shirtless suit situation going on here. You have a little silver sort of blazer. It's there, and then a very high-waisted pant. It's a little bit wide leg cut. She definitely looks taller. She also looks like an Edwardian man in terms of pantaloon. The pant is not adding up. We should have buttoned the second button. I think it would have thrown off the strange, again, Edwardian man height of this pant waist. It's very confusing to me. It's very strange. Leave that to the Spanish designers, the flamenco dancers. Leave that to them. They're very good at it. They really know what they're doing. This, it looks uncomfortable there. I think the jacket is great. It's very Maria Grazia simplistic. It's just the cut of the pant is very strange. I'm not understanding it whatsoever. And so yeah, it kind of ruins what otherwise could have been like fine look. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine. Next up is Kerry Washington, and she is wearing Celia Crithariotti. It's a brand that I've not heard of, but I think she really does look dazzling. I think this trumpet sort of cut really works lovely on her. Big sort of ball gown is really, really stunning. And then the fact that it tapers almost to the mid-hip area, it's rather stunning, to be completely honest. Essentially, it has a sort of boned corset situation going on underneath. You can see the boning sort of coming out. And then it's sort of draped into this big flowing skirt. Do I think the draping on the hip area is amazing? No, but like, that's the texture. You just have to deal with it. But as for the big sort of skirt situation, I think it's lovely. I think the yellow is beautiful on her. I think it's eye-catching. I think it's overwhelming in a very positive way. Listen, it's not intellectual, it's not avant-garde, it's none of those things. It's meant to sort of be beautiful, show-stopping, stunning, and I think the color and the cut, I think, does that very, very, very well. If that's the vibe that we were going for, which I think is the vibe that we were going for, it's lovely. Do I obviously want like a little bit more intellectual from, you know, Miss Washington? Of course. But if this was the vibe we were going for, I think we've achieved it. Next up is Kirsten Dunst, and she is wearing Erdem. Honestly, I think this is nice. I think it's a very nice dress, like just plain nice dress. Off the shoulder is really, really lovely. I think the sequins on it are gorgeous. I love the way that they sort of reflect. It gives this dress just liquid feeling to it. It really does seem like it is doused in sequins, and that sort of is different than just a little bit of sequin here, a little bit of sequin there. No, no, no. It looks wet. It looks like if you touched it, it was red paint and your hand would be red pulling it away, which I think is nice. I think that dresses up otherwise a very sort of simplistic silhouette here. Erdem is not a brand that is avant-garde, overwhelming in that sort of direction. It's usually just nice clothing that's made nicely, and I think that this is a good example of that. So I'm not going to expect something different, even though I'd like to, but I'm working on that. Meet brands where they are at. That's my new life motto. And yeah, I think the color works. I think she looks nice. I think she looks simple. She looks elegant. Next up is Lady Gaga. Now listen, me and Gaga, we have a contentious relationship. It's really only the House of Gucci thing. She looks stunning. She does. She looks phenomenal. I think this is the way to go. I think this is the moment. I think this is the vibe. I think we're gonna get a shit ton of Italian brands for this sort of award season, and I'm happy about it. She is most definitely an Armani fan, and I think the great thing about Armani is it's always simple, but it's always done beautifully. Again, meeting brands where they are. I'm not going to expect a Versace level conundrum of intellect and complexity there. I'm going to expect a beautiful, beautiful gown. I think it fits her stunningly. It fits her like a glove. There's not any sort of drama going on at the hip. It's not trying to add any sort of embellishment to take away. It fits her fantastically. The seam running down the front, I'm not mad about, I'm not angry about, because the way that it hugs her waist and her hips, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. Again, like, they know how to cut a beautiful dress. Now, again, you might say, oh, this is so simple, blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's that simple, though, and I think that this peeling away neckline in white, I think proves that. It is sort of that intriguing little design detail that gives it a little something extra. It almost feels like this is the first of the award seasons. Is Gaga going to like peel away at these different layers of herself as time goes on to sort of showcase this sort of new person? Is that what she's trying to do? I don't put that past Gaga in any sort of way. I think that she knows how to method dress, especially for these sort of red carpet moments. She's going for what she wants. And I think that the little silver underneath is stunning. I think it's gorgeous. I think it works. I think the rhinestones are delicate enough, but at the same time draw a little bit of attention. It has that sort of little oomph that you expect from Gaga, but we're in the refined sort of Lady Gaga phase. It's not the kooky crazy moment. Beautifully made dress. It's not doing too much, but it's doing just enough to keep you intrigued. And at the same time, realizing that it's just beautifully made. It fits her phenomenally. That's all you kind of can ask for. Next up is Laverne Cox. She is wearing Michael Fausto. Michael Fausto is an up-and-coming sort of new brand. So essentially it's a black dress that at the underbust sort of cuts into this very intricate, beautiful embellishment and embroidery of silver with lattice motifs, full, I'm not sure exactly what it would be. Maybe, you know, you could say that it's antiquitarian, it's maybe, I don't know, like Venetian, it's Persian. It has like all these sort of elements of old world, the ancient world. Feels like it's a little bit Mediterranean maybe it's a little bit sort of like Middle Eastern, a little bit sort of South Asian sort of vibes. There is sort of beauty to it. And then at the top, you have a little black band that sort of comes and creates a neckline that doesn't make it feel too discombobulated. You're not going from black into silver and that's it. No, you have the black that sort of helps to create a section for it. The sleeves also, I think, work really, really well. It gives that little bit of oomph. I'm not oh my god, foaming at the mouth over it. But I think it looks lovely on her. It has a little bit of intrigue, it's a little bit daring, it has a little bit of history attached. Next up is Lee Jung Jae. Now he is wearing just a navy suit. And again, I don't know if he is a brand ambassador for somebody, but if he's not, what are we doing? I don't know how to say that in Korean, but like, what are we doing? How have we not picked him up? I'm confused. Listen, I get it, navy blue with the black lapels, the black shoes, the black bow tie, the white shirt. I get it. Need intrigue, need excitement, need something fun from him. You know what I mean? Listen, I'm not saying put him in a green tracksuit, but something. A green suit with white stripes. That's a moment. Give him a Gucci contract with the latest Adidas collaboration. Bing, bang, boom, everybody wins. No? Am I correct? I'm not wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. Also, like, honestly, that would be smart. That would actually be very smart. Why has nobody thought of that yet? I'm confused. I've thought of it, so I'd like my finder's fee. I want more intrigue. I want more excitement. I want more and more and more and more. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Next up is Leslie Odom Jr., and he is wearing Balmain. Now, it's a polka dot suit, and it has the sort of Balmain motif running throughout it. I think it works. I think it's nice. I appreciate the polka dot sort of, take. I like that it goes from small to large polka dots. I think the pants could have been fitted a little bit better. They're a little bit baggy-aggy, and when they hit the shoe, it's a little bit, But I appreciate, again, that he always takes a risk. Like, he's not afraid of a pattern. He's not afraid of a motif whatsoever. Polka dots, I think, is also very much not associated with menswear. So when you get to see it, it's like, oh, nice. So listen, do I wish, yeah, again, the pants definitely needed a little bit of work. But the rest of the look, I think it makes sense. I think it's chic. I appreciate the sort of playing off. I'd like to see more. I think there are other Balmain looks that definitely could work. Leslie is always taking it somewhere for the men, and we appreciate that. So listen, if he's having a little bit of an off day, I'm not opposed because he's still going somewhere. He's still pushing it. The rest of them, it's like asking them, I don't know, to like rip their nails out if you ask them to wear something that's not a black suit. So thank you, Leslie. Next up is Nicole Kidman. She's wearing Saint Laurent. Very simple, very black velvet, very columnal, very Nicole. Also very Anthony Vaccarello at Saint Laurent. Listen, the black with a little white bow, it doesn't give me like Clara Sant, Lulu de la Fallée, very 1970s. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's Saint Laurent, that's kind of what I want to see. You know what I mean? Like I'm not looking for like, crazy. I'm not looking for, kooky. I want like this. This is nice. This works. This fits in with brand history. Like if I were to look through a Saint Laurent book now, I probably would find a very similar experience. The bows are very much so Saint Laurent as well. It's just sort of like a historical thing. I think she looks stunning. She's not trying to do too much for the SAGs. She's killed it. That's all I can say. Like, that's all I can say. I think it works. I think it makes sense. I think it's beautiful. Thank you, Nicole. Next up is Reese Witherspoon. She is wearing Schiaparelli. This is a black little dress. It has a fun neckline there, which I think is really, really sweet, really, really intriguing. And then a silk taffeta sort of wrapped band that becomes its own sort of train in this icy blue. So I can't find the dress. That might be a me issue. Feel like I've seen this before. I'm not sure. To me, it is definitely reminiscent of like fall 2021 haute couture. There were sort of black looks like this with this sort of blue silky taffeta moment going on. It's in a very sort of Charles James cut, but I think that's sort of playing into what's going on here. The other thing is, if you look at the spring 2022 collection that's ready to wear, you can sort of see these little curved horn sort of necklines. Personally, I think that's maybe a reference to Elsa Schiaparelli's obsession with Spanish sort of cultural dress. That's kind of where that little moment is coming into my head from. I think it works. I think it's a really nice little subtle detail that's fun. It's a little bit different, it's a little bit strange. It's like, why is her dress horned? But listen, not opposed. I think that it's simplistic, but again, when Schiaparelli is not doing the super surreal, over-the-top, sort of kooky avant-garde stuff, under Daniel, he understands that Schiaparelli of the past, from the 1930s, the 1940s, and like parts of the 1950s, was essentially a very simplistic cut brand. It wasn't a, technical feat in terms of the way that garments were constructed or their shapes or their silhouettes. It wasn't Balenciaga like that. It was more about the embellishments, more about odd hats and shoes, accessories, etc., etc. And the clothing was, for the most part, very sort of simple in terms of how it was made, through patterns, through draping, when that was done. So I think Daniel has a very good grasp of when to go crazy and when to sort of do much more scaled back. And I think this is a much more scaled back sort of time. Makes sense. I think the SAG Awards is a good sort of situation to do that. So I'm here for it. Next up is Selma Hayek. Now listen, normally I'm one to criticize a Selma Hayek in Gucci moment because she's wearing Gucci. I think this plays into Alessandra Michele's sort of recent draping love. If we look at the spring 2022 collection, there were a lot of dresses that were draped very, very tightly, and we can see that here on the bust and at the waist. I think it makes sense. I think it plays into the brand's sort of recent delving into, oh, Hollywood glamour, sort of drapery of V&A, of Madame Grey, of the 1930s. And I think that's what he's going for here. I think this pink is honestly luscious. I think the texture that it creates is nice. And because it's so tight, it's pulled so tightly, it's a lot better than most of the sort of like lumpy sort of draping textures when things are pulled this tightly. It's very, very sharp. And I think that actually works. Okay, maybe the crease on the skirt is a little bit too much, but I do think that it all plays into this whole sort of draping element. It's not trying to do something different. It's not trying to do something matte, non-textured at the skirt while, you know, emphasis on the bust sort of waist area. I think the fact that we're going for texture all throughout is very helpful. I think the color looks lovely on her. I think the little gloves also play to Alessandro's sort of love of like lace and sheer and stockings and all those sorts of things too. So I think this is a good Gucci moment for Selma. Next up is Sandra Oh. She's wearing Carolina Herrera. I think Sandra likes the metallic, and I think that this works. I do think that this is rather fun. Is it tinfoily? Yes, but I think the fact that you have this layered gathering that goes throughout this skirt really does work. I think it doesn't make it look like just one big roll of tinfoil fell out of the packaging and just rolled all down her. It definitely has a sort of prairie style that we've seen over the past 2 or 3 years. The back to nature core, when COVID sort of hit, is everybody got really into like prairie styles, you know, very natural. I think this is a good way to go about taking that element, especially the skirt, and bringing it into a little bit more digital sort of feeling, a little bit more modern, a little bit less, you know, stuck out in the woods dancing naked, to we're being forced back into the lives that we lived before COVID began to a degree. And so I think it makes sense. I also think it fits her really, really beautifully. So I'm very happy with this Carolina moment for Sandra. Looks good. Next up is Selena Gomez. She's wearing Oscar de la Renta. This is from the fall 2022 collection, I believe. And now listen, who doesn't love a leg of mutton sleeve? And then who doesn't love a leg of mutton sleeve in a black velvet? And then who doesn't love a leg of mutton sleeve in a black velvet that is then actually a crop top and a high-waisted skirt? Now, Selena, I do think actually look really, really lovely. She's been having some troublesome fashion moments, I would say. This is a good pickup. I do think the fact that it's this tiny little crop top and high-waisted skirt that creates a faux empire waistline is brilliant. I think it's really lovely. Bridgerton, eat your heart out. I do think that it's a smart way for Fernando Garcia and Laura Kim to also sort of play on trompe-l'oeils and sort of things that you think are there, but they're not really there. It's a black velvet dress with a empire waistline and a leg of mutton sleeve, so it doesn't need to do all that much in terms of embellishment. The silhouette is simple. It's meant to be simple. It's meant to be very, very structured. It's meant to be very columnal. I think she's done a great job here. I think she's going for simple. I think she's going for elegant. I think she's going for pretty. I think she's going for demure, and I think that she's hit every single one of those adjectives that I've just said, so I'm here for a Selena moment. And then we have Sophie Hunter wearing Christian Dior and Benedict Cumberbatch in Berluti. Let's talk about Sophie first. The Dior dress I actually don't think is that bad. It has one of those Maria Grazia sheer, circular, mythological, zodiac, astrological motifs going on. I don't know what it is. I'm not really going to investigate because it just looks nice, so I'm going to leave it at that. We don't really need to go any further. And then the dress sort of falls into a beautiful sort of tulle gown underneath, a little organza overlay that's embroidered with this beautiful gold, light gold, floral motif. And there's a little bit of like a velvety gold situation going from like the waist down to like the mid sort of hip area, and like again, I don't really know what's going on. I'm not going to ask because it looks pretty and that's all I need from Dior. Thank you, Maria. Grazie. As for Benedict, black suit, it's Berluti. It fits him well. Appreciate that. That's good. But again, Benedict, like push it a little bit. You're in a movie about like cowboys. Method dress a little bit. Give me a Ralph Lauren moment. Little cowboy mumbo jumbo western situation. You know what I mean? Like throw in a little subtle quilted patchwork or like a little bit of a denim that's different and strange and kooky and fun. Like give me a cowboy hat. I'm not asking for a lot. And so now let's talk about Vanessa Hudgens. She is last up. I love this. I think she looks stunning. It's an Atelier Versace dress. I think the drape of it is fantastic. It looks like it is what is it called when they put the vacuum in a bag and then they suction it out? You know what I mean? Like, that's what this looks like. It's phenomenal. So like, to really be able to drape that on her and for it to fit as well as that fits, stunning. This is beautiful. This is amazing. It's a feat. I think the color is magnificent. I think the halter sort of cut is also great. She knows also how to play this dress off. Actresses that get on the red carpet and it's almost like they forget how to be actresses. They forget how to like give it to the girls. Vanessa knows how to give it to the girls and the gays and the theys and the straight men too. There is no need to sort of find an intellectual aspect of it. There's no need to find some sort of avant-garde reference or inspiration. It just is a beautifully made look that she carries very, very well. And that's all I need to say. So that is the end of our roast here. Let's do a best and a worst. This is hard. For best, I'm gonna put, I think I gotta put Vanessa Hudgens, Gaga, and I'm gonna put Cynthia Erivo there because the accessorization of that coat, it was brilliant. And like, worst vibes? I'm sorry, I gotta put Jennifer Hudson in there because I just don't know what was going on with the bodice. Please let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. I'd love to hear all your thoughts on these SAG Award looks. I will see you guys in the next video, and TTYL.